Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Defining Discipline podcast. I'm your host, Scott. This is episode 304, as well as day 304 of my journey. At the beginning of the year, I challenged myself to run 365 days in a row, all outside, bearing the elements, whatever they may bring. I also challenged myself to run 1,500 miles within this time frame, and to run two big races within this yearly time frame as well. One of those races being a 50K ultra marathon trail race. That was the Yankee Springs 50K trail race in Middleville, Michigan on June 5th, day 156 of my journey. I was able to finish that 31-mile race within 7 hours, 15 minutes, and 22 seconds. Now, the next race that came up within this yearly time frame was the Detroit Free Press Marathon. I ran the Motor City Challenge within that race, which entailed me running the competitive 1 mile and running the competitive 5K the day before the actual marathon. The 1 mile and 5K were on day 289, and the marathon was on day 290 of my journey. I was able to finish that marathon, was shooting for a sub 4 time, was able to finish within 3 hours, 57 minutes, and 28 seconds. So I was really excited about that time that I got within that race. So like I said, that was on day 290, and we are currently on day 304, so I was able to keep the streak alive after both those races, the 31-mile ultra marathon and the actual Detroit Free Press Marathon. Now let's kind of break down the mileage for the day today, day 304. It was Halloween, got out there today and put in 4.9 miles for the day. That put me at 21.8 miles for the week, which put me at 115.5 miles for the month, which put me at 1,359.4 miles for the year. So I'm 140.6 miles away from the yearly goal of 1,500 miles. But we're going to quickly focus in on these monthly miles. Before we break down why, just want to say this has been one of the weaker months that I have put out all year. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Now let's actually just talk about the monthly miles of 115.5. Every single month I challenge myself to do a 100-mile challenge, and I do it in honor of a charity in which I donate money to, as well as try to raise money and awareness for during that month by starting a coinciding fundraiser that follows along with the 100-mile challenge. For the first 9 months, raised money for 9 great charities. Now we're here within the 10th month, the month of October, and we're raising money for yet another great charity. This charity goes on until November 6th, and the 100-mile challenge is in honor of Michigan Humane. I chose the 100-mile challenge of October for Michigan Humane because October is Adopt a Shelter Dog Month. I'm a huge dog person, and Michigan Humane is the shelter throughout the state here. They do a really good job, so that's why we're also raising money and awareness for them this month. So if you would like to donate to this month's fundraiser, you can find the link to do so on the Defining Discipline Instagram story or Facebook story, or my personal page's Instagram or Facebook story. Within those stories, you click on the link, it'll open up another page where you're actually able to make your donations. All donations that get made to this fundraiser go directly to this fundraiser. Facebook is not taking or keeping any portion or percentage of your donations. Keep that in mind. So it's all going to this cause. I do know times are tough. Not everyone can afford to donate right now. I get that. If you can't, and you'd still like to help out, the next best thing you could do is just click on that share button, put it on your page. Let's try to raise awareness for it by getting as many eyes on it as possible. Other than that, guys, I guess let's kind of get ready to get into today's actual episode. But as always, before we do that, let's talk about today's word of the day. For October 31st, Halloween, today's word of the day is doppelganger. A doppelganger is a person who resembles someone else or a ghostly counterpart of a living person. So I guess it's quite fitting for today's for what today is, being Halloween, doppelganger. It was a good word of the day. So let's get into today's actual episode 304, day 304. For those who've been following along to the episode or the podcast for a while now, at the end of every single month, the last day of the month, I do a month in review episode. So that is what today's episode is. Nothing spooky, nothing crazy. Kind of did demons yesterday in honor of Halloween. That was yesterday's episode. But today we're just going to do the actual month in review. So we'll break this down here a little bit. The month overall, like I said, it was a good month, had a great month. But in all honesty, just felt kind of really closed it out there. A little weak. Can't blame myself too hard for that. Catching COVID, not being able to actually put in the amount of miles I wanted to put in, especially like right when my body felt like it was ready to get back into full training mode after that marathon. COVID hit and kind of just said, yep, not gonna happen. So kind of just went downhill from there. But let's kind of just go do a little review here of the month. Like I said, so other than me finishing this month off a little weak, was still able to hit the 115-mile mark. And I actually had started the month off pretty strong. First 3 days was a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday, and just within those days, I was able to pump out 19.2 miles in those first 3 days to kind of really get a nice chunk of this mileage out of the way. So I did a 5 miler, a 7 mile, two 7 miles, and a 5 miler the first 3 days of the month before the actual first week hit. So that kind of really, again, helped me get a lot out of the way there. And then that second week, I was able to put in, exactly 25 miles. Didn't want to go too crazy. I kind of started the taper a little bit early for the race. And I think because it was my leg was kind of acting up a little bit, and I wanted to really just kind of tone it down a little bit and really take care of myself. So I made sure to stick with just a nice 25 miles even that week. And then the next following week here was the actual race week, October 17th, and then October 16th as well with the competitive 1 mile and 5K. So all that week I just did 1.5 miles, nice and easy until that Saturday, and then did 4.3 miles. And then that Sunday, knocked out 26.7. I did do a little bit extra. So that put me at 38.7 miles for that week. And then the following week was going to be the recovery week, in which on Saturday I was going to really start upping the mileage again. But all that week I did 1.5 miles. Then that Saturday hit and I caught COVID. Big bummer. I actually still felt pretty good that Saturday, but I didn't want to overdo it, so I still kept it at 1.5 miles. And then from there on out, it was kind of like a true battle between COVID for the next 5-6 days. And then this past Friday, felt a lot better, so I was able to actually kind of up the mileage here to kind of close out this last week a little bit stronger, because that week, that recovery week from the marathon, with me recovering for the first 5 days, and then the last 2 days wanting to really pump in the miles but not being able to because of COVID, I was only able to finish that week with 10.8 miles. So it was a pretty sad week right there. And then that final week, all 1.5s, but then Friday I busted out just over a 5K. Yesterday I busted out 7 miles. Today I was going to do a bigger run, but just didn't have the amount of time. I had to try to get back earlier than I had expected, so just kind of went out and ran aimlessly and got just under 5 miles to really finish off this week with 21.9. Um, so that 21.8. So that really is how, the month kind of came together here. Overall, good month, like I said. Just still kind of wish I was able to finish it a little bit stronger. But again, I guess it's something I can still chalk up. Um, you know, Instead of being down on myself that I wasn't able to finish October as strong as I'd like, now I have to say at least, I ran a marathon and was able to overcome COVID while continuing to run. So that's just another thing I can chalk up on the board of obstacle that kind of threw itself in its way that I did not let get the best of me. Um, so instead of looking at October as a complete failure, it wasn't a failure at all. It was a great month. I got my PR in the marathon, talked about that. Just was really shooting for sub 4 and was able to get it. Um, that race in it with itself, though, had its ups and downs because at the beginning of the race, I was dead set on almost hitting 3 hours and 20 minutes. I was just keeping up with that pacer, and at one, I think it was like mile 16. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm staying here. And then mile 18 hit, and I started falling behind the pacer and started losing them. And then mile 19 hit, and it was really mile 20, and after that, kind of really started screwing with me. So, was able just to get that 4 hour under that 4 hour mark for the marathon. So I was really excited about that. So October was not a failure. Just was, really shooting for at least 10 more miles out of the month. Is a nice 125 is a good mile marker for me. But finished where I finished, content with what I got, and just gonna be looking here forward to November. Gonna maybe try to push it here again a little bit harder. Nothing too crazy. Maybe go for 150 this month, but just really try to get back into the grind of things. Um, but again, this overall month of October was a great, great month. Had a good time running in it. It was great running weather as well. Some days a little crappy here and there, wet and chilly, but perfect weather for the marathon. And some of these other days have just been great weather as well for running. So overall, October was a good month. It's now in the books, closed out officially 33 as well. So it turned 33 years old this month as well. So that was a good thing that happened this month. And then overall, just the month in general, talking about COVID. I haven't really said this in any of the other episodes, but I'm just glad I caught it here, the tail end of the month. I'm glad I didn't catch it any time before the race. I'm glad I didn't catch it, right before the race or months before, by birthday or any of that. I'm kind of just glad. Would rather not have caught it at all, but couldn't have been a better time, I guess, to have catch it after the race during a good, nice recovery time where I can ease back into my mileage and not, really worry about missing too much or screwing up too much of my training. It came at a great time. So that's that too. That's another way to look at it as well, trying to have a better outlook on when I caught it and just having it in general. So, and again, that's another win for me, especially kind of bumming out with the 115 miles for the month. So it is what it is, and like I said, looking back at it, I'm stoked. Was able to push through here with COVID, and couldn't have came at a better time. So that's pretty much it for today's episode 304, day 304. Insane to think that we're this far along, but we are. So for your daily discipline, as always on these month in review podcasts, it's for you to do the same. Look back on this past month. What have you accomplished? Have you got anything done on your to-do list? Have you set any goals for yourself that you've been, slowly working towards or obtaining? that's just pretty much it for this month. Kind of review this past month, review this past year, how far you've came since the beginning of the year. Um, Kind of just sit down and really think about, what's going on. And now, next, to also think to the month forward and what your goal is going to be looking like for this next month coming up here in November. That's your daily discipline for the day. Other than that, this is episode 304 of the Defining Discipline podcast. I'm your host, Scott. If you guys can, please give the podcast a like, a subscribe, a follow, a share on our Facebook, our Instagram, our TikTok, our YouTube, and whatever podcast streaming platform you've been following along and listening on. Other than that, guys, if you guys can, please get your donations in for October fundraiser, which will be closing November 6th, I believe. We'll be also having a new fundraiser coming here starting tomorrow for the month of November. Other than that, thank you guys so much again for listening and following along. It's insane to think we're this far along in the year. This podcast is truly about following along on my journey, in which I try to truly work on myself as an individual on all levels, mostly running and following along my journey with that. But again, I'm just trying to become the best version of myself possible, and I truly think that we could all do that, and that would make the world a better place if we were to try to work on making it a better place by working on ourselves individually. That's kind of the theme for the podcast overall. So thank you guys for listening. Episode 304 now officially done. I'll see you guys tomorrow for episode 305. And until then, stay disciplined, get your daily discipline done, and peace out.